Hello. So what we're going to start looking at this week is something called 2-point perspective. Okay, now in first year we had a look at something called 1-point perspective. Okay, and you might remember that we had a shot at doing a few shapes, stars and hearts and things like that, and then you had to kind of go at doing your name in 1-point perspective. Okay, now 2-point perspective is a similar idea, but we're just taking it up a level and making it a little bit more difficult. Okay, so some of the things that you need to know, and this is like the terms that you need to know. The first one is your horizon line. Okay, now again, these are the same terms we used in first year. So we've got our horizon line that runs across here, and this is almost like our eye level. Okay, so if you think about maybe looking over to Fife and you can see where the sky meets the land, that's kind of what we're looking at there with our horizon line. So we'll quickly label that up. Now, what we looked at in first year was that we had a vanishing point. Okay, now that was 1-point perspective, so we had one vanishing point. Because we're looking at 2-point perspective today, we need to have 2 vanishing points. Okay, so VP1 and VP2. Okay, so vanishing point 1, vanishing point 2. Now, what we want to start thinking about here is how we can build up our basic kind of cube to start this. Okay, so this is how we build up all our different objects in 2-point perspective. We start with a basic kind of crate or cube, and then we can kind of adapt that and cut bits out and add bits on if we need to. So in 1-point perspective, what we did was we drew the front face and then we took everything back to the vanishing point. 2-point perspective slightly different. What we do is we draw our front edge. Okay, so not a face but just an edge. So something like that. Okay, now you do need to use a ruler or a straight edge for this. I've got a kind of bit of a rubbishy ruler with a foam bit on the back, but anything that you've got that's a straight line, so maybe the edge of a book or kind of a piece of plastic or a cardboard box that you've got lying about, anything like that would do the job. So we've got our leading edge here, okay, rather than a face, and what we want to do is take these bottom and top points back to both vanishing points. Okay, so we're going to start off with a wee bit of a sort of V shape. Now, I'm drawing quite dark, and you'll remember this from when we've been in class. I have to draw a wee bit darker so that you can see it on the camera, but I would like you to try and keep your lines nice and light whilst we build it up. So, front edge, and then what we're going to go doing is, as light as you can, is taking the top and the bottom of that ledge, back to vanishing point 2 or vanishing point 1, whatever way you do it, and then back to the other one as well. Okay, so what we start with is this kind of V shape. Now, the way that you can kind of help yourself to remember things in 2-point perspective, and don't worry about this if it's a bit confusing to start with, it is quite fiddly, okay? But any vertical lines, so ones like this front line, okay, they always stay vertical. Okay, so if they run up and down, that's what they always do. Okay, things that run horizontally, okay, so that usually run sideways, they don't stay horizontal, they always go to the vanishing points. Okay, so if it's meant to be a line that runs sideways, what we need to do is we need to take it back to your vanishing points. So straight up and down, always straight up and down. Side to side, always just go. Instead of off to the side, they go off to this vanishing point here. So we've got our sort of starting point there, which is our kind of front edge, and then we've essentially got 2 sides here. Okay, now at the minute the sides go on forever. Okay, they go back as far as our eye can see. They go all the way back to this eye level, but we want to give our object kind of a depth or a thickness. So what I'm going to do is I'm just building up a cube to start with, and we'll practice a few cubes, or I'll do a 1 or 2 and then I'll leave you to kind of practice it on your own at home. So we've got that first line there, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to create a parallel line. Okay, so one that runs the same direction, so up and down the way. Okay, now I'm going to darken this up a wee bit as I go, just so that you guys can make it a wee bit make out a wee bit easier what I'm kind of trying to show you. So we've darkened up this one, so now what we can see is we've got the first side to this cube, this first face. Okay, and what we've got is a corner that goes back to vanishing point 1, back to vanishing point 1, but we now have this new corner. Okay, all the others go back to vanishing point 1, which means this one has to go back as well. So we're taking our ruler or our straight edge, we're lining it up with our vanishing point, and then we're taking it back as well. Okay, so again, I'm trying to keep these as light as I can. I have to obviously do them a little bit darker so you can make it out on the camera. So next step is to build up this side face, okay? So I'm going to go for something slightly longer, more of a rectangular shape, but it's totally up to you. I don't really need a specific size at this point, it's just practicing it and getting your head around it. So I'm going to go a little bit longer on this one, and again, whatever I have at the front, I'm copying it at the same angle to the back, okay? And we know that if it's a vertical line, it'll always stay vertical, which is what we've got. Now, what we've got here on this front edge is it goes back to vanishing point 2, back to vanishing point 2, so we want to have the same on this top surface. It needs to go back to vanishing point 2. So we line it up, and then just nice and lightly take it back, okay? Now, at the minute, this might look a wee bit confusing, okay? Some of you might actually be clocking what's happening here, but all we need to do now to build up this sort of cube or cuboid is just to darken up a couple of lines, okay? So, we know that this back edge here, or this bottom edge, runs back, so I'm just kind of building up this cuboid as we go, okay? So we've got that. I can then see my sort of top face there. I better turn that back straight again. So we've now got one side, and we need to build up the top, okay? And by taking those lines back to our vanishing points, what you can hopefully see is that we've built up the top there already. So back to the vanishing point, back to the vanishing point, which it already does, and all we're doing is darkening up, okay? And what we've got there is our first 2-point perspective cube. Okay, so no matter what we're drawing, we would always create sort of a cube or a cuboid type shape to kind of build up our object to start with, okay? And then we would kind of go in and maybe cut wee bits off or add bits on or whatever it is that you're kind of sketching, but we want to start with that box as a foundation. So I'm going to quickly just do another one, just to kind of explain that again in case you didn't understand it. I'll not kind of talk through these wee bits again, I'll just kind of sketch it and just explain what I'm doing as I go. Okay, so if you are really confused, feel free to go back to the start of this video and you can always watch it again. You can watch it through as many times as you want. So, what we're going to do, same again, we need to start with our horizon line or our eye level, okay? Now, that is totally up to you where that is on the page. I'm doing it up at the top of the page for just now, and we're kind of almost looking down on the object, but you could have it in the middle or at the bottom and you're just kind of working wherever, okay? So, I've got my horizon line. What I need is my 2 vanishing points, so vanishing point 1 again, and vanishing point 2. Now, you don't have to label those up, I'm just labelling them a bit, just to make it hopefully a little bit easier for you to see what's going on. Now, I'm going to try and draw a wee bit bigger this time so that you can see what's happening, maybe a bit clearer. So I've got my leading edge, okay, so that's that front edge, and then all we're doing is going back to our vanishing points nice and lightly to build in those 2 sides of our object. So we've got that kind of V that we start with. So every single time you set up a 2-point perspective drawing, this is what we want to be looking at. Okay, now what we're going to do is decide on the thickness and the length of this cube. So I'm going to make this one maybe a bit longer this way. So again, vertical always stays vertical, or just close as you can get it. Okay, so what I tend to do, take my ruler and slide it, and that keeps the angle as best I can. So that's me got that thickness there, and I'm going to do it slightly differently this time. I'm going to build my faces up first and then sort the top, and I'll make it a bit skinnier this way, so the thickness of my ruler. So I've got the left, I've got the right, and now my last step is just to build up the top surface. So this side, everything goes off to vanishing point 2, so I'm going to do that, and then this side, everything goes off to vanishing point 1, so I'm just going to sketch that in as well. Okay, so I've kept it fairly light, and then my last step, as we did in the first one, is just to darken up those lines. Okay, so the lines that we're building this up with are called construction lines or projection lines. So they're really light, they're not super kind of intrusive on your page, they're just there to kind of construct your drawing, okay, hence the name construction lines. Okay, what we're now doing is we're outlining the object, and that's the name of these lines, there's nothing fancy, we just want to outline it so that we can kind of see what lines are definitely going to be there, okay? And again, we've got another cube or cuboid. So 2 different options there. Things we need to know: horizon line, vanishing points, and our leading edge, okay? Simple as that.